They a bunch of Satanists, criminals, murderers, and pedos. We all pray to God while they worshiping the devil. Yeah, it's Hollywood, the royal family, politicians left and right. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ. It ain't left and right no more, cause now it's good and evil. They used to call it a conspiracy, but now it's real. We seen the files and the facts, don't care how you feel. They having pizza parties, and that means they eating people. This might wake them up, QAnon didn't make it up. Missing kids got flown to Jeffrey's Island by who paid enough. The rich and famous, the young, eat human flesh, it ain't for fun. It's ancient ritual, sucking adrenochrome from baby's blood. They call us crazy, but they should be behind bars. They call us liars cause they don't want to get charged. They call us conspiracy theorists, but in their hearts they know all the names they call us ain't as bad as what they are. They are Satanists, criminals, murderers, and pedos. We all pray to God while they worshiping the devil. Yeah, it's Hollywood, the royal family, politicians left and right. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ. It ain't a culture war no more, the real fight is started. We've been up against each other, but now we the targets. It's the rappers, it's the actors, the elites in charge. It's kings and queens, they all bowing to the prince of darkness. Things ain't getting better, they run the world with rich investors. The cult came from Egyptian deserts, now they cannibals in Gucci sweaters. Using AI to fuel agendas, control the news, the truth, the weather. Now we're ruled by a group of dudes who are all satanic child molesters. They call us crazy, but they should be behind bars. They call us liars cause they don't want to get charged. They call us conspiracy theorists, but in their hearts they know all the names they call us ain't as bad as what they are. They are Satanists, criminals, murderers, and pedos. We all pray to God while they worshiping the devil. Yeah, it's Hollywood, the royal family, politicians left and right. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They anti-Christ. They seem anti-American, they anti-Christ.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Patriot Underground. Today is March 14th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, to discover the truth beneath the surface. As always, I really do appreciate everybody out there taking the time to listen. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming my good friend, Matt Geiger from Verity Metals, for another conversation. We like to get together once a month and just kind of talk about the markets, gold and silver, his area of expertise. And he's also an Anon, as everybody knows. So we have substantive conversations about some of the most interesting developments that have happened in recent days. As you know, Matt, it's like a month's worth of news in a day now. And quite frankly, it's hard to keep up, but it's wonderful to be able to sit down with like-minded people and to have so many great audience members tune in for what will hopefully be an excellent conversation. So it's great to welcome you back, man. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, to talk about like-minded people. I mean, I think that's what, us, the audience, I think we're always seeking those people. That's what I've surrounded myself with out here in Arizona. It's just, you find your tribe and you stick together because it's about to get bumpy, my friend. It's about to get bumpy.
Yeah, I mean, the acceleration period is upon us. I think we can all agree on that. The thumbnail for the show I chose today was one that was put together by my great friend, Spiritual Street Fighter. I'm actually quite honored to know her. I actually met her once on a show that I did. It actually wasn't a show. It was just kind of a meetup that wasn't recorded. And I didn't even realize it was her until much later down the road. And she's become quite famous because Trump retweets her memes all the time. But she did the March Madness one. I thought it was very appropriate for today, given all that's happening. I mean, 1 minute we're like neck deep in the Epstein files. And then the next minute we wake up on a Saturday a couple weeks ago and we're at war with Iran, quote unquote. So we can certainly talk a little bit about that. But there's also a lot of very interesting comms that have come along that you and I were talking about backstage that we might touch upon. But what I always like to do with Matt, because he is an expert in the precious metals industry, he has a long history of being in this business, and he started Verity Metals, which in my opinion is the best company out there for folks who are looking to get into gold and silver particularly, but really any precious metals. Matt can talk you through all of your different options. But I like to start out the show by handing the baton over to him and having him give us sort of a snapshot of the market, the way things are looking right now. And there's actually a very interesting article that I wanted to touch upon as well. So let me go ahead and bring that up just to sort of frame the conversation, Matt, and then I'll pass it over to you. Now, folks who follow my channel and the other Anons that I work with closely know that Matt works with a wide variety of people now. He works with the guys from Absolute Storm. You're doing Absolute Finance, which was really cool. He also works with News Treason. And actually, Dave and I did a show just the other day, and he brought this article to my attention, not on the show, but it was right around that time I saw that he posted it. So this is a pretty lengthy article, but this is really, in some ways, it's the question that everybody is asking, right? As far as silver and gold, especially, and gold as well, but especially silver, just in terms of the recent price explosions that we've seen. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the details on this article because it really gets into a lot of technical stuff, and I'm not really an expert in that area, but I can give you the essential drift of this this piece here, which was dated, I believe, on March 10th. So this is a very recent article giving a very strongly bullish take on silver's price potential. You can see just in the headline there, how high can silver go? Silver price predictions target $300 in 2026. And so in this article, the author is arguing that physical shortages and a breaking paper pricing mechanism, which we've talked about in the past, futures versus actual metals, could drive explosive gains. And as you can see, I mean, I think right now, if you look at the what's the spot price, it's about $80 as we're doing this show. So that would be an absolutely massive spike. So the key points in this article, and then I want you to comment on what your take is here. So like the current situation, here we are in about mid-March, silver's trading anywhere from about $80 to $88, $89 over the past several days. It's up over 160% this year. It's down about, I think, 28% from its January peak, which was an all-time high of $121 and change. And so it's kind of in a consolidating phase right now, but it's certainly looking like it's going to break out in the not too distant future. So as we've discussed in the past, we've got the traditional paper market control, the COMEX futures dominating price discovery, and it's basically cracking due to the massive physical demand, which is outstripping supply. And the article goes into a lot of detail here, talking about huge COMEX vault withdrawals. Something like 33 plus million ounces were drained in January alone. And the east-west, price gaps between, Shanghai and New York, et cetera, et cetera. And another very important point is the industrial demand in terms of solar, in terms of AI, electronics, electronic vehicles. And as we all know, and historically, it's always been a geopolitical safe haven during turbulent times, which I think you could make the argument we are right in the midst of those. So in short, the article is basically talking about the possibility of silver more than tripling from where it is now in 2026. And it was actually Bank of America that gave that high ball figure, interestingly enough, of about $309 in a bull case sort of scenario there. So with that said, Matt, why don't I pass it over to you, and you can just kind of give us your thoughts on where we're at. We saw that massive historic spike back in January. There's been a bit of a consolidation, like I mentioned. So give us your take on everything that's happening in the silver market.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've had a little bit of a pullback. I mean, I don't even see it, 89 to 80 as really much of a pullback. I mean, I guess it is, but to me, it's like, just hang in there. What these banks have to do right now is they have to get out of their short positions. So I think you could see a very quick sell-off here in the next, week or two that would drop the price even further. And don't worry, people that bought, at that 121 level, they probably paid 125, 130, depending on the product they got. Don't stress. These are just artificial manipulations by these banks. People that maybe bought a little bit higher. Don't bat an eye. What these guys want to do is they want to get the weak hands out of the market. They want to get people to panic and say, "Oh, I got to get out of this silver," and boom, your silver goes to somebody else. It's a game of musical chairs that we're playing here, and yeah, you could see it drop. These banks have to get out of these shorts. So what's going to probably happen is you're probably going to see a quick sell off. It's going to look like all this silver is being sold off. It's paper. It's not even the real thing, right? But it's the way the world works, unfortunately. And then from there, you could see $150 silver within the next month or two, literally. Sky's the limit. I mean, 300, I think, is a conservative estimate. I think you could see 500. I think you're going to see 300 by the summer, and I think it's going to surpass what everybody. Because remember, what we're talking about here is I'm not like some big analyst on silver. Sure, we can do that all day. Hey, stop barking at the birds. It's not just the silver to watch out for. It's also the stuff that's happening in the real world as to why people are going to need silver, why people are going to want silver. When my phones are going to absolutely light up, and we're not even going to be able to handle the volume of calls. Here's what's going to happen. A certain news source that I'm sure a lot of your audience is listening to has had us paying attention to these school bonds. School bonds is where all these Democrat cities and states have absolutely looted the bond market, right? They've effectively taken this money and they didn't have to pay any interest or anything over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Well, guess what? All these bonds are coming due, and none of these cities and states have the money to pay for them.
Yep.
Okay, so this is going to be this is going to probably take out an estimated minimum 600 banks. 600 banks like that. Okay, so this is the beginning of the real. I mean, we've already seen banks going down for similar reasons. This is the kickoff to the real financial collapse. Anybody that says, "Oh, everything's mirrored, everything's under control," it's not. Okay, as much as I believe that this is a movie playing out, okay, I totally agree with that that vantage point. But you got to remember is that we got to put these people in the spotlight, and when these bonds fail, and these cities and these schools run out of money, okay, and these banks are left with an empty bag, and the bondholders are left with an empty bag. Okay, this is going to be a big deal. This is going to be a huge deal. And this is why you got to get your money into gold or silver or platinum or palladium. This is why you need to get it into the precious metals, because at that point, that's when people are going to start demanding delivery from these banks. That's when people are like, "No, I want that silver in my possession." And that's where the physical starts to dry up. You might have, let's say we have $300 an ounce silver. What's the premium? The premium over spot might be $200. So $300 silver might really be $500 silver.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because no one's going to let go of the silver for $300. They're going to be like, I need at least 500 for this ounce to part ways with it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a supply shock. Just like in this article, by the way, I did put out a promo for Verity using this article because I think it's so. I mean, it goes into a huge amount of detail. Matt's giving you the highlights here, but if you really want to get into the weeds and actually understand what's really going on at a granular level, this is an excellent article to dig into. And once again, a hat tip to my friend Dave for pulling this out. But as you can see on your screen, right, what you're talking about right now is the supply shock. Is essentially what we're looking at.
Exactly right.
And it's going to be hitting all over the world. And, in terms of the movie, as I always say, yeah, we're watching a movie, but it's really more of a hybrid in a sense. Like it's scripted.
It's a hybrid. Yes.
It's pre-planned, but that doesn't mean that there aren't actual events that do take place, whether it be kinetic in the events, in the Iran war type situation, I believe, which we can maybe touch upon a little bit later. Yeah, I believe it's largely a lot of what we're watching is scripted and it's not real, but there are some very kinetic elements that are going on to clear out deep state elements, in my opinion. And I think you could apply that same type of thinking to the financial markets as well. It's not like the white hats don't have a plan. They do have a plan, but in order for this to really be a dramatic situation that's going to grab everybody's attention, especially when it comes to access to their money and, that being a primary driver to wake people up, there has to be a real element to it as well. So just because it's a movie doesn't mean that the bottom can't drop out, but we can all trust that ultimately there's going to be a safety net there in terms of what they have planned in order, as a contingency once all of this stuff happens, but it still has to play out in order for people to really see the house of cards and be able to recognize the house of cards for what it is. And even at a deeper level, understand what's going on particularly with the price of silver and how it's been suppressed to prop up the fiat currency. So there is a very real element to it.
And, we talked about a lot on the shows, this fraud in Somalia, Minnesota, right? We saw all this fraud going through these daycare centers and these different, fake businesses that not even just Somalis are running. All kinds of, nationalities, including white people. You're talking about trillions of dollars of fraud that's been going on in the system. And
right.
Is anybody talking about it anymore? It's like one of the biggest stories in history was that fraud, because of where you can, extrapolate your thinking and realize, oh, if it's going on here, well, it's probably going on in 1,000 other places too. So I think when you see this bond market melt down, when you see these banks go down, and you see people start to experience real loss, hey, my 401k just lost 60% of its money because I had bond exposure, right? I'm a 75-year-old woman, and I just wanted safety and security investing in bonds, getting my little 1 or 2% rate of return every year. But I thought my money was safe. This is the most conservative of conservative investments. You were literally in the most risky of investments. It's mirror. It's upside down world, right? It's like everything else. Up is down, left is right. Mm-hmm. So I think what that's going to do is that's going to start bringing a real reality to financial loss. And then people will start taking this stuff, this fraud that we're seeing in Minnesota, Massachusetts, New York, California. That's where I think you start dropping the bombs about California and the fraud going on there once these bonds start to melt down. And that's where people will start taking it seriously, and people will start questioning who? The Democrat politicians that these people elected the whole time. You guys love Mamdani. Okay, great. You got him. Look what you got now.
Yeah, they turned City Hall there basically into a mosque. Unbelievable, yeah. But as it pertains to the financial markets, there's a very real, painful stage that I believe is shortly over the horizon at this point, and I think Matt is in agreement with me.
Yeah, what happens to the stock market? The stock market runs on confidence in the debt market. So what are bonds? The debt market. So what's happening to the confidence erodes? What do you think is going to happen to your stock portfolio? It's going to get cut down to size.
Absolutely. Any thoughts as to, this conversation really is about communicating to the audience that there's a storm coming. Not that my audience doesn't know that, but the best way in terms of the financial, because so a lot of my shows, really, I would say that the lion's share of my shows focus on analysis of all the domestic developments and all the comms and the Q operation, and then everything that's happening geopolitically. But that's why I love to have you on, because you're a great point person to have a discussion about the financial theater of the war. So on the other side, basically there's going to be, and we don't know what exactly it's going to look like. There's all types of theorizing and speculation about what the new financial system is going to be. Everything from really conservative type of projections to Nasara and Jassara and massive debt forgiveness and everything in between. But what this conversation is about really is warning everybody or reminding everybody that there is a financial element to this war, and the best way for you to position yourself to transition through the storm into whatever it is, the unknown that's coming. We don't really know what that's going to look like. So that's really what's so important about this discussion. And by getting yourself into precious metals, silver, gold, all the different options that Matt can go over with you, you put yourself in an amazing position, not only to be able to weather the storm, but actually to be able to profit as the result of going through this storm, because you were well informed and you knew what was coming.
Well, so I think it boils down to is I think what the whole Q operation really represents is it represents, the real free thinkers, the real good-hearted, God-fearing people of this country, in the world for that matter, seeing stuff ahead of time. It's almost like, you're getting insider information, not directly, but through, kind of subtle communications, to say, basically what Trump's telling you with that ridiculous gold hair, right, is get into the precious metals, and ridiculous silver hair, get into silver. Right. He can't come out and say it, but he can allude to it. He can communicate it through other means. And I think that, if you're somebody that's been in this movement and you're seeing this stuff and you've been, maybe sitting on the sidelines, like I know a lot of people have, a lot of people call me up lately, Matt, I thought about doing this last year. Oh, I missed out. You haven't missed out on anything. Sure, you missed out on, $30 silver eagles or $25 silver eagles. But OK, so you paid $90 for them today. Big deal. OK, you still have another. I mean, if silver's going to 300, 500, 1,000, I mean, you're going to do just fine. I think it's about wealth preservation. And, you know, I've always looked at gold and silver more as a store of value. I haven't looked at it as like, oh, look how much money I'm making. I've looked at it as more just keeping your money up with the Joneses. I'm beginning to really think that this is a real money making potential. These are the hottest assets on planet Earth. And whatever you can do, get positioned in this stuff as best you can.
Yep. 100%, man. And you're right. This really is. It's a blessing. It's very frustrating at certain points of the journey, no doubt, because it's been quite a long process that we've all gone through, especially those of us who have been awake for years, even before Q showed up and Trump showed up. But the reality is there's a massive blessing associated with it as well, because we are, I mean, just like we were given the Q drops as the most incredible, unprecedented level of military intelligence being shared with civilians to prepare us for everything that's coming. In a similar way, Trump is giving us all those comms, like you said. I mean, everything is adorned in gold. And of course, he always has the cover of just Trump is flashy and he's gaudy and all these types of things. But those of us who are in the know, we can recognize that there's a very deliberate comm there. He's telling all the people who have eyes to see and ears to hear what's coming, how to position themselves, and then ultimately on the other side of the storm, what the new financial system is going to look like. And you and I are very much in agreement that we're going to be reverting back to constitutional money.
And the reason is because, you know, when banks go down, okay, people are going to lose trust between obviously their bank, but also their government, because the government they know what's going on in these banks. They know what's on their books. They see it loud and clear. It's no secret, right? So why was the government withholding that from us? Why didn't they come out and do something about it? So there's going to be trust loss. And the only way you're going to build trust between people and their banks and their government again is to go back to something like constitutional money, specifically gold and silver coin. It's really the only path forward. I don't think people are going to be that comfortable in digital. I mean, look, I'm a big believer in XRP, XLM, XTC, whatever. I'm a big believer in the ISO coins, etc. But I know that I'm buying something very speculative, and I probably wouldn't have bought it if I didn't have gold and silver to fall back on. If that stuff goes to zero, don't worry, I'll be on the show next month. You won't see me jumping out of a skyscraper window. I wouldn't be happy about it, but I'm willing to take some risk, and I would encourage anybody out there, if you can afford to take some risk, do it. If you see opportunity and you're learning about it, I think that's a great place to be. I'm a huge believer in XRP, and I think some interesting news that Gary Gensler was trying to suppress XRP. He was behind the scenes trying to get it out of existence, but he
as was Epstein. That was a big part of what came out of the Epstein files. And I recall the last time you and I sat down, we didn't really get into it in any depth, but we mentioned that with Bitcoin, there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of gray area there. Some people, you look at somebody like Eric Trump, obviously the president's son, is saying Bitcoin is going to the moon. You would think that the president's son would probably be in the know and he wouldn't be steering people wrong. But at the same time, it came out in the Epstein files that he was actually fundamentally important in funding the development of Bitcoin and actively working against XLM and XRP because it was an existential threat to the existing system. So to me, if something's an existential threat to the existing system in terms of cross-border payments, peer-to-peer payments, that's exactly what I want. But to Matt's point, it's still a speculative asset. Some people are talking about XLM and XRP being backed by gold and silver and precious metals. That's the thing. We don't know. We honestly have no idea. And there's a much more speculative element to crypto when you compare it to gold and silver, which are basically a no-brainer. And that's ultimately the message that
it really is a no-brainer. That's the best way I would put gold. It's like, if you're just confused, you don't know where to turn, it's like gold and silver is the easiest choice. It's simple, it's physical. We can send it directly to you in your possession. Yep. So I really, and even if you don't come to Verity Metals, even if you go to a local dealer, go support your local guys. These guys, they've been around. You can usually find some pretty good, on sale deals in some of these places. Just like my storefront 2 exits down here. We have selling specials. If you come in and want to pick up a couple ounces, we usually have the little section of just some stuff 50 cents above spot. You can't get a ton of it, but even if it's somebody that just wants to come in and buy an ounce or two, we really try to cater to those people and make sure that they can get their hands on at least something.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And like we always say, and that's one of the things I really respect about you is and we've talked about this in the past. Look, if you have a precious metals dealer, somebody local, somebody that you've dealt with that gives you a good deal, doesn't rip you off, then absolutely support that person, of course. But
No doubt.
if you're looking for that person, he's on the screen right now. And it's also a win-win because it enables you to support the show, to support what I do. So it's a great opportunity to not only invest for the first time if you're out there and you've sort of been on the fence about gold and silver, wondering if you've missed the train, as Matt pointed out here. The train hasn't even left the station yet. I mean, it's just they're just warming up the engines at this point. And somebody put it was Albani says that XRP is going to be the monetary system going forward, backed by gold. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're hearing about crypto. That's the ISO coin, specifically XRP. Everybody knows that I'm very bullish on it, but I have to admit that there's an element of there's a far more speculative element to crypto than there is to precious metals, gold and silver, that have historically always been
And especially
a safe harbor of wealth. But we're moving far beyond that characterization of like gold and silver just being a safe harbor to actually going to the moon and beyond.
And especially for IRAs and 401ks, right? A big part of my business is dealing with people's retirement accounts.
Right.
I wouldn't go put my IRA or 401k in something extremely speculative. That's your life. In most cases, that's people's life savings. Correct. You want to be very careful with that. That's the type of thing you stick into gold and silver. You wait out the storm and you see what happens on the other side. Chances are things are not going to develop overnight. They're going to develop slowly. So you'll take a little portion of your gold or silver, liquidate it, boom, put it back into the market. Slowly but surely, you start putting it back into the system. That's what I love about it, is it puts you in a total position of safety outside of the banking system. It's essentially a currency conversion. I wouldn't even really call it an investment. I would call it more of a currency conversion, if anything, because what do we have to do to get rid of this deep state? We got to get rid of the central banking system, right? We got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the central bank, right? It all comes out of the BIS.
To kill the Fed?
Trump's going to take he's going to try to take as many of these toxic assets, put it on the books of the Federal Reserve, okay, hand the bankrupted corporation back to the Fed and say, thank you for playing. That's probably his move at the end of this. He's going to have to walk this country through bankruptcy. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. And I just tell people, it's like, just imagine what gold and silver prices are at that time. Just imagine. You're probably sitting on $20,000, $30,000 gold. You're probably sitting on $2,000, $3,000 silver. I have no way to predict that, right? It's just total speculation, but it's probably what you're going to see.
Well, I mean, if supply and demand and ultimately the transition through bankruptcy, if all that plays out, and it certainly looks like it's going to, it's not that it's really, I mean, it is speculative, of course. None of us have a crystal ball, but it's not really wild and outlandish speculation either, because everybody's going to be flocking, running for the exits at the same time. And there's just going to be a massive demand with a very limited supply. It's basic economics. Again, on the other side of all this thing, I do believe that the White Hats have always had a plan to ensure that everybody can transition through this, but it's not going to be without. It's almost like they're using the Mockingbird media is using the phrase short-term pain for long-term gain in terms of Iran and that whole situation. It's very similar, I think, in terms of the financial process. I mean, we have to go through that period of pain in order for people to really wake up and to recognize and be educated on the way that the cabal fiat debt prison system worked, the way that central bank worked, how they suppressed metals to prop up the fiat currency. All the tricks that they played need to be taught to the people, and they need to feel the effects of it, just like with everything else, so that we don't go back, we don't revert back, we don't fall asleep again, and we don't allow this to play out over and over and over again. This is the Great Awakening, and the financial element of it is absolutely huge. And the other aspect of it that we've talked about as well is that there are a lot of people out there who simply are not going to wake up until if and when it hits their pocketbook, if and when it affects their financial situation.
Exactly right. And just remember, we were taken off the gold standard by what? Not an act of Congress, executive order.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. Trump doesn't need to go to Congress for anything. He can just do this himself. All he's got to do is take a piece of paper and tear it up like that.
Right. And in my view, that what we're going to go through, it's going to seem just like everything else. It's going to all the normies out there, it's going to seem very real, but it's basically going to be a process that's already predetermined. It's in essence, it's already prepackaged. Like they know, like you mentioned, Trump is going to walk this country through the bankruptcy process. But I believe very, very, very strongly that this has all been
The
mapped
deals
out.
with the creditors have already been done.
Everything, the deals have already been done, and it's gonna sort of be the reenactment, just like everything else with the ultimately with the justice phase, the disclosure about everything having to do with Epstein, and essentially saving Israel for last. I mean, all the things that we talk about, it's going to be fall into the same category. It's already been done. It's a prepackaged situation. They've already mapped it out, but it's going to seem very real and very visceral to people as they're going through it.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is the best way to position yourself to not only weather the storm, but to do quite well as you go through it. And ever since I've been taught, I mean, you have a long history. Tell folks just a little bit. I mean, how long have you been in the business?
In the business, 11, 12 years. Started out at, one of the big companies out of LA. Actually, the one that started it all. I won't mention names, but they did a good job. They charged a lot. The premiums we were charging were pretty high at that time. Nothing like what what I see these companies charging today is disgusting. I mean, I don't even know how these places haven't been raided by the marshals or the feds by now, because it's the Wild West, man. It's a completely unregulated industry. But I got my start out in LA. I worked in some of those call centers, and it was good. I had a good time. I mean, and people of LA, LA is a place where there's no sense of real community. So it's kind of a tough place to live. I like the weather. I was out there for the weather. But you see in a lot of these call centers, you get a lot of the, they're gold brokers by day, and they're rock stars by night. They're going and playing, the Troubadour, on Santa Monica Boulevard. I got a show at 6. I got to leave early, whatever. But it was good. I got my feet wet. I really got to learn the business. I learned from some really good guys. There's some really good guys out there, older guys that knew the business, that understood, how the process worked. And then I just kind of realized, I'm like, you know what? I could be doing this myself. I could do it way cheaper. I really started, that's when the Q stuff really started coming out. And I started noticing that, I would talk to some people about it and they'd think I was crazy, which was kind of funny. I'd be like, hey, why do you think Trump dyes his hair gold? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Right. And then other people, they'd be like, Matt, you're my guy. Boom, boom. And I realized I had this great rapport with the Patriot community. So I eventually just realized, I'm like, I'm going to start my own business. And I eventually moved out here to Arizona, and we started up Verity Metals. Worked at another company before I started Verity. And then just realized, I'm like, I could do this myself. I have the self-storage options. I really knew the business by that time, 2 years ago when I opened my doors. So I just do it, on a shoestring budget. I love working with the Patriot people. I always tell people, like, some people have to go into their day jobs and have to go and be around, liberals who you got to kind of bite your tongue and make sure you're not offending them. I have the dream job. I get to work with your audience, people that understand, people that, we're not talking about gold. 95% of our conversation is talking about stuff like what we talk about on this show. The rest is just like formalities. It's like, yeah, Matt, we connect. And I think what it boils down to is that patriots find patriots. And, I want to take care of them. I made it my mission when I opened up my doors. I was like, you know what? We're going to take care of these people. We're going to make sure they get a great deal. They avoid these other companies out of places like Los Angeles with the premiums they charge today. It's like I said, it should be illegal. I want nothing to do with that business. Yep. So we just give people really great deals. I think we give people great advice on trying to steer them toward United States minted coin, right? And just so people understand, I have no financial incentive to sell. Somebody wants 100-ounce bars or 10-ounce bars. Great. As long as people have good things to say about me, that's all I care about.
Well, they do.
But, and thankfully, yeah. I mean, we do a good job, and it's been a lot of fun, man. It's been great working on my own. We have the best relationships with our clients. They're basically friends. We're meeting them. We're going to see them in Texas. We're going to see them in Long Island coming up. A lot of them. One came by the office the other day. I don't think he was from your show, but he was like, He's like, man, I'm a little bit starstruck. I'm like, dude, I'm just a gold broker. I'm not, I'm not Patriot over here, So it's funny, man. It's like you go out, you meet these folks, and they're just good, God-fearing Americans who I love to death. I want to help them, and that's just been my mission. That's going to continue to be my mission. And if you come to me, just know you can trust me. I will always do right by you. If I ever screw up, I'll make good on it. I make mistakes sometimes. Everybody does. So we've been doing really great, and I really want to thank the audience for thinking enough of me to come on board.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I've had nothing but positive feedback from people, and as you've shared with me, and I've also had people commenting on the videos that we do, and even sending me emails, just telling me, really thank you for pushing me in the direction of Matt, or introducing me to Matt,
Cool.
because
that's great.
It's just an amazing. He was
That's
amazing
good.
to work with, and simple, easy process, very straightforward, no smoke and mirrors. To such an extent, I mean, we've had a lot of people fortunately from the audience do business with you, and we've even had a solid number of those come back for a second and even a third round, because they were just so satisfied with the service that you provided. So, kudos.
Large figures, people have come to me with some large figures from your show, and we take care of them. If they would have gone to these other gold companies, they would, they go put in $2 million. That gold company would have taken $1 million in commission. Literally, that's what these guys would have done.
Yep.
I work on a few percentage points, and on that kind of money, to me, that's doing very well.
Right.
Right. And you know what? It's competitive with the rest of the market.
Right.
I just did an IRA the other day. I think the price on JM Bullion, who's I consider a reputable company, I think their price on Silver Eagles that day was like this is when silver's a little bit higher. They're like 104.38. And I did an IRA at that was their cheapest price. I did it at 103.50.
Wow.
So basically just about $1 cheaper for an IRA, which generally I charge a little bit more. But because I know how to source well, the client got a phenomenal deal. They're thrilled. We were able to make our money, and everybody wins, and that's the way it should be. I want to take care of this group. These people are my family. Oh, well, thank you.
Yep. And these are the types of comments that I see all the time, and it just
Thank you.
itself. I mean, these are people who are, like Matt said, these are patriots. They're part of our soul family. I never imagined when I started doing recordings, believe it or not, I'm coming up on March 20th. It's going to be 5 years since I did my first show. And I never imagined in a million years that I would become a focal point for so many people and develop this sense of community. And I mean,
you've done great, man. You've done great.
I've talked about it so many times on my coffee chats and on my shows, and just, I mean, it almost like it moves me to tears, because the people in this audience have completely changed my life and given me a sense of purpose. And with that sense of purpose and being a focal point and being a community, I feel a responsibility to the best of my ability. I've made mistakes along the way too. I mean, this has been a learning process for me, but to the best of my ability, I want to do right by my audience. I only want to promote people and products and things that I believe in, that I think are solid and legit. And that's what I do. So when Joe and Scott introduced me to Matt, we had a conversation. I got a really good vibe, and I've learned to listen to my gut. That's the thing. I mean, sometimes people can, they can weave a pretty good illusion in front of your eyes, but it doesn't necessarily hold up to scrutiny. But Matt's actually a real stand-up guy. He's a wonderful dude. And
you put together this great, you've put together this amazing show. I could tell you firsthand, because I talk to them. You don't get to talk to them. I do. They love you. They absolutely love you. They love the show. I think they come to these shows and in the chats because they love that sense of community. It's so important, especially right now. And again, they've been so good to me, and I'm going to be even better to them. And I'm sending out fun coins and George magazines. Right? We'll get to our George magazine topic here.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should transition to that now.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for folks who, and I do see some comments where people say, well, I've tried to get in touch with Matt, and at certain points he's been really, really, really busy. Okay.
I apologize. Yeah.
He works with almost everybody that I am associated with in the Patriot community. and it's basically him and his business partner, and he's doing all of this work on his own, working like literally working like 16 to 18-hour days at certain points, trying to keep up. So, Matt, just why don't you just touch upon that really quickly for
Yeah,
folks who
I
are.
would just say, and I apologize to anybody, and I know I've missed some people there. And believe me, I want to talk to everybody. I take calls on a Saturday or Sunday. You're welcome to call, but I would say call my cell phone. My cell phone is 480 area code 717-9081. Probably the best thing to do would be to shoot me a text. That's 480-717-9081. Shoot me a text, because then, when I'm in between something or whatever, I can just give you a quick call, make contact, and then we could schedule something. And like I said, we could even do something on a weekend. Sometimes, husband and wife, they work at different times of the day. I do consults on the weekend, just that's the backup number. But just let me know that you're calling from the show, because that doesn't track the 888 number that he has tracked.
That's a good point. So this is all right. So let me take this down really quick, just so people know what's the ticker that's going on the bottom of your screen there. Okay, that's my landing page. Okay, with Verity Metals. So it's veritymetals.com/patriot. If you want to check out the website, we'll show you a little bit later in the episode today. And then the 888-470-7018. That links up directly to me as being one of Matt's affiliates. Okay. But so this is really, that's the first number you want to call. But if for whatever reason, the response time is taking a little bit longer and you're in an urgent situation, Matt just gave you his personal cell number. I mean, I don't know anybody else who's willing to do that.
And you can also email me. It's just my first name, Matthew, with 2 T's. I don't know who the heck spells it with 1 T, but I got to specify that. Yeah. Matthew, Daphne, stop it. Matthew at veritymetals.com, and I'll get in touch with you same day.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll come back in kind of full circle at the end of the show, but I know that there was some really interesting stuff. Actually, Matt had sent me this X post. I don't know if it originated on, I think it may have originated on TikTok, but this is a clip from what's the name of the Hulu show? It's like Love Story or something like that.
Something like that. I'll look it up. It's the JFK Jr. show on Hulu.
On Hulu that just started recently, right?
I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna start. I haven't been watching it, but now that I saw this clip, yeah, Love Story, John Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette.
Okay, so what you're about to see here, folks, is a clip from the show that a lot of people are talking about, and we're actually gonna connect this to some of the other very interesting news that's come out as well surrounding Trump and time travel. And I might even show the Isaac Cappy clip where he talked about JFK Jr. So let's just watch this really quick. This is fascinating, and then I'll have Matt comment on it. So this is from the Hulu series that's playing right now. So that's Carolyn Bessette, the actress with JFK Jr.
Hey, you like logging some hours? Beautiful day for flying. What do you say? Let's do it.
Now let's back it up here and give folks a nice, good look at this guy. Is that who we think it is?
It's him. That is him. Clear as day. Clear as day. And then they do the when he turns around and he goes to the back to the plane, you can see the very classic shot on the back of his head. With the he's got that very thick hair.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me play it.
What do you say?
Let's do it.
This there?
Yeah. Very classic. you
Got
know,
the
Junior,
gray. He's got nice and gray there.
yeah, but that's very classic, you know, John Jr. hair right there.
And
A lot of photos.
they're getting on the Cessna.
They're getting on the Cessna. Yep.
Wow.
And I know, you know, not everybody here is a big fan of Juan, but when he says, "Hey, logging some hours," sounds a lot like Juan's voice to me.
I'm not gonna go there, man. I used to talk about that a long time ago, especially when I was doing a lot of shows with Kerry Cassidy. Folks can go back in the archives and check all that out. But
that's him.
pretty compelling, man. I have to say. I mean, that guy. He looks at. I mean, you can imagine what JFK Jr. would look like at this age. I'm not sure how old he would be.
65.
Is it 65? Yeah, that looks about right. It looks about the same facial profile, the same hair, gray, of course. Looks about the same height. Pretty interesting, right?
It's a nice confirmation. You know, we've gotten a lot of clues in magazines. You know, there's a magazine that I have that came out in 2018, and it has no magazine company. And it was on store shelves, but it has no real, you know, it wasn't put out by, like, you know, you see like a nice glossy magazine and it says, you know, Newsweek at the top or something. It has no affiliated brand. And when you open it up to page 13, there's a famous photo of him launching George in 1995, where he's got, you know, his hand out and the big, you know, the massive, you know, Cindy Crawford first issue, where he's, you know, he flips it around and he presents, "Hey, this is George." But if you look carefully at the image, he's an older man. Yep. And on the cover, it says JFK Jr., his secret plan to run for president, or, you know, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And a lot of very graphic photos of his father in the hospital after he was, you know, his head was blown off. And you look at these photos, you're like, this is hideous. Like, who would put this out? This is like almost too much. But I think it was to remind people, like, hey, this is what they did to my dad.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, man, you know, my gut has always told me that he's still alive. And as you know, I have to say, I mean, because the Q drops really have always been sort of my home base in terms of how I approach my analysis, is in terms of a springboard. And the question was directly asked on the Q boards: is JFK Jr. alive? And Q said no, but he also told us that disinformation is necessary. And we've had a number of different indicators along the way. Very famously, of course, RFK Jr. was asked to touch his nose if JFK Jr. was alive. We all know that clip. We've seen it. I didn't dig that one up today. But we also had this clip from the great Isaac Cappy right before he died. This is what he said, and this is a very short one. So let's just go ahead and remind folks.
Junior is going to change the world. And he's very, very in touch with the light. It's going to be great. Junior.
Yep. And then, you know, there's actually, that's a really short one, but he goes on to essentially to say that, you know, that he's alive. And we know that Cappy, well, I don't really think Cappy's dead either, personally, but
I don't either.
The story goes that, you know, he was taken out very, very shortly after that. Of course, we all know that it was framed to look as if, like, Tom Hanks was the one.
Tom Hanks did it, right?
Took him out because he, amongst many other people, he exposed Tom Hanks as being a pedo. And then there was all of these really creepy posts that Tom Hanks put out, basically gloating over Cappy's death. But, you know, interestingly, Tom Hanks hasn't put out a tweet in, I think, about 6 years now, something like that.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, he's long gone. He's
long gone. He died he was taken out in Australia, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, you remember that picture of him on the prison barge with his wife?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think these depositions that we're seeing from the Clintons, I think those were done back in 2018.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I think those are old depositions from back. That's why Bill Clinton would say, "Oh yeah, Trump doesn't have anything to do with Epstein," because if it were today, he would say, "Oh, he absolutely did," just to cover his own tail. But I think those two are long gone.
Yep, indeed. Well, you know, so this was interesting to me because, again, it ties into sort of the the folklore around Q and people who have been making these speculations that JFK Jr. is going to come back and ultimately play an instrumental role in uniting the entire world on the other side of this storm. And it would be, I mean, I can't think of anybody else. There's been a lot of talk about various different celebrities who have been a part of this, as they call it, the Gone with the Wind program, I believe it was, that have gone into witness protection, and that they were going to come out on the other side and basically be reintroduced to the public as a way of essentially of bringing about the healing process, right? So why don't you say a couple of words? Because I know that JFK Jr. has been a particular point of fascination for you. What is it that you think his emergence? I mean, how would you characterize that? I mean, he comes back onto the scene. How would that affect people? How would that change the entire consciousness of not only Americans, but of humanity itself?
Well, for starters, my aunt was the original publisher of George Magazine in the 1990s, Eleanor Carmody Gibbons. You can look her up. If you look at the, credits in the beginning, you'll see her name. She's actually got one of the big names as opposed to the little names. And I remember growing up, my aunt worked side by side with him. There's that very famous photo in the editing room of the February 1997 Survival Guide to the Future, right? And my aunt sitting there with the bust of George Washington. She's got her hand on the George Washington's head. Junior in the background, and the cover of the issue on the wall. And it's funny because everybody thought that was Carolyn Bessette. I'm like, that ain't Carolyn Bessette. That's my Aunt Elle. And she worked there for years. And I remember there's a few times where I thought he was going to be there, and I was probably 8 years old in 1999, 9 years old in 1995. So, I mean, there was a few times where my aunt had like a birthday party or something, and like,
oh, I'm actually older than you. No kidding.
Yeah, Junior, 86. I'm born 86.
Okay, 79.
Junior was like, I remember we went to this bar in downtown. I must have been like 9, 10 years old, and he was supposed to be there, but I guess he couldn't make it that night or whatever. And my aunt was she didn't visit with us a ton. I love my Aunt Elle. She's terrific. But as a kid, I remember, we might have seen her once a year, usually during the holidays for like Christmas or something like that. But that I just always remembered as a kid, even before the Q stuff, I always remembered when we got that first, because my aunt would give us subscriptions to the magazine. And I remember the day that magazine came in. I was laying in my parents' bed, and, my mom had all the clothes that were in a pile that she was about to fold. And she handed me the magazine. It was just something about the magazine that just the way it looked. And obviously Cindy Crawford, she was the prettiest woman in the world at the time. So that probably helped.
Yeah, my God, she was the obsession. She was like every man's fantasy back then.
Every man's fantasy. And, see her dressed up as George Washington. You're like, what the hell is this? Like very masculine. And I guess, fast forward to, 2018, early 2018, when I learned about Q. And I started seeing the boards and listening to different people that could really understand what was being put up there.
Right.
I was like, if JFK Jr. is alive, I might want to start getting my hands on these George magazines. So I just started buying George magazines. I got my first survival guides for like $20 and $30. Now they go for $1,000, $2,000.
Yep.
So it really got me going. But to your question, what does Junior represent? I mean, you got to remember, Junior was when he saluted his father in 1963 on his third birthday, that they had the funeral. Of course, that's what these sickos do. I mean, that photo quite literally captured the world. Mm-hmm. And I think from there on, everybody loved John. He was, as they call him, he was America's son, right? And everybody watched him grow up. Everybody watched him, constantly. Almost, I almost feel bad for the guy because he probably had to deal with so much paparazzi growing up, which might have been a good thing because he got used to it and learned how to deal with it. But I think at the same time, he was being bred by the military for this military operation. I think he was read in at a certain age into the Q operation to say, hey, you could be part of this if you want to. And he did. And, I think what he represents now coming out is, it's going to tell you how bad things are going to get, I think. I think it's going to be such a scare event, and people are going to be put into such shock and awe that, you're going to need somebody like a John Jr., a Michael Jackson, an Elvis Presley, a John Denver. You're going to need these guys to come out and, like you pointed out, help heal the world, bring people together. These people will be first. John's testimony will be, hey man, I had to go fake my death. There's a deep state out there. That deep state's real. Whether you guys want to believe it or not, they tried to kill him multiple times. They tried to kidnap him and kill him. I'm sure there's stuff we haven't even heard about. He had to go underground. He had to exit stage right. Otherwise he really would have died. So he will be a firsthand account, a firsthand testimony to the existence of a ruthless, satanic cabal, deep state, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to reinforce, right? Because the problem is that when you get stuff from Trump could tell you all the truth in the world. He can show you all the evidence. But because you don't like Trump, you're just not going to believe it. You're not going to want to believe it. You're not going to want to believe anything he says. And I feel the same way. And I feel the same way about the other side, but I legitimately feel that way because they've been caught lying about everything. So
did anybody not love JFK Jr.? I mean, honestly.
He was the most.
Who didn't like the guy? What was there not to like about? Except unless if you were the cabal, unless you were evil, unless you were Hillary Clinton, as you see up here in the drops. Okay, we all remember this one: POTUS and JFK Jr., their relationship, the plane crash in 1999, Hillary Clinton's Senate race in 2000, the start. Unless you were evil and part of the cabal and saw him as an existential threat, what's not to love about the guy? And you make
think about it. Think about it. Do you think we would have ever gone into Iraq or Afghanistan? Right? No. Do you think 9/11 would have been able to happen if John were alive? Probably not, because he probably would have said something about it. He had the highest levels, Q level clearance military on his side. They knew what was going on. And unfortunately, these events had to play out because we didn't have the ability to take control back. But John would have been president. John would have run for president probably in 2004.
No doubt.
Right, he would have been set. He would have been a senator of New York from 2000 to 2004, and in probably 2004 we would have elected him as president. He would have easily won.
Yep. Now he's basically like the foil of Hillary Clinton. As much as people hate Hillary Clinton and always had an aversion to her, he had that magnetism about him. Not only did he have the name recognition of being a Kennedy, of being JFK's son, but he just had this charisma about him, and it was like there was no possible way that the cabal could carry out their plans, like you just talked about. Whether it be 9/11, I'm sure he would have. There's a case to be made there that plan never would have worked out. If he was president, right? They needed. He wouldn't have been president that early. He had to run for. He was running,
but he would have been able to expose the people involved.
He would have been, he had the connections to be able to expose the people who were involved. Very similar to a lot of the theories now that are floating around about Charlie Kirk and his opposition to the Iran war and so forth, that he had to be taken out because he was such a beloved figure on the right to eliminate the opposition that we're now seeing on the other side of this quote unquote Iran war. We're not going to get into that, but just kind of to draw a parallel there. The cabal knows when they're dealing with certain people that have to be taken off the chessboard in order for them to go forward with their agenda. And that's never been more true than with JFK and, of course, subsequently his son. And it would have completely altered the course of history. There's no possible way he would have lost to Hillary Clinton. And there's no, who could have conceivably even given him a run for his money if he had run for president, which undoubtedly he was going to.
Yeah, it's always, this life is a battle of hearts and minds.
Indeed.
Right? Just like this fight is a battle of hearts and minds. John would have always won the hearts and minds of people. And unfortunately, instead, we got somebody like Obama who captured hearts and minds initially. And then once he got those hearts and minds, he injected venom into it. He injected venom into people.
Yep.
And that's effectively what Obama did, is he took people and he brought out the worst in them.
Mm-hmm. And would we have gone down this whole path of wokeness and all of this cultural rot and all of this sickness that we've seen? Think about it. how much the world has changed since 2000, since 9/11. Let's just go back to 9/11. Go look at the way that the country was back then on the tail end of the 90s, the very beginning of the new century, and to where we are now in 2026. Now, fortunately, we had Trump and the Q team come along, and we imagine JFK Jr. as well as a key part of that operation to save the world. But just look at how far we've fallen. And if you have the right type of leadership, I mean, if JFK Jr. had taken the reins at that time, at that period of history, it would have ultimately prevented, I imagine, all of this sickness and this insanity that we've seen develop over the past 20 something years.
I also do see the dilemma, though. It might have made sense for letting them play it out, because now I think even us, we wouldn't have necessarily known who the true enemy was. If we would have just gone back then and did this, today we might still think, Lindsey Graham is some great, God-fearing Republican, right? So the rhinos wouldn't have been exposed. So I think now is the real time to do it. And Trump even said it in the State of the Union. He says, we did it just in the nick of time. Just in the nick of time.
Well, maybe that's why he faked his death.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
that's
really
that's what he tells us. That's when the operation actually began, and it might have been for exactly those reasons. You can't tell the people; you have to show them the trajectory that we were on, where they wanted to take us. Nobody would have ever believed it, right?
Totally. And now, the difference between then and now is now you're seeing these forces. I mean, they're all good with sending out money to Somalia through fraudulent daycare centers. They're taking the Democrats have literally taken the side of the worst positions you could ever possibly take. And that's kind of the beauty of it, because now, I mean, any rational thinking person, I don't care what political affiliation you have, any rational thinking person is going to turn around and be like, all right, this is not, I'm not good. I'm not down with this. I'm not down with bringing in, endless illegal immigrants into this country. This is not good for the people. Are starting to get it. People that would have otherwise not gotten it before. So I could see why they did it at a time like now. But it'll be nice to see. It'll be nice to see him return. It'll be nice to see who else is back. I look forward to that. To me, that's exciting. That keeps me
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. My goodness. The day that actually happens, people's minds are just going to absolutely melt.
I just wonder how they're going to roll it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we've been spending years trying to figure out, right? Some of these things, like JFK Jr. I mean, I talked about it a lot and a lot more often in my earlier days when I was, I was very closely following 107 at that point in time, and I was talking to Carrie Cassidy, who's like absolutely obsessed. I mean, I love Carrie, but she's like absolutely obsessed with Juan. Completely convinced that he's JFK Jr. And, it became such a contentious issue with people just like wringing their hands and being like, can we stop talking about Juan being JFK Jr. and on and on and on. I'm not here to weigh in either way. I'm just saying, the point being is that I kind of let go of that for a while and just got more focused on how the operation was progressing. Sure. But now here we are. I mean, who knows how much longer it's going to go. I mean, we all obviously hope that it's going to be sooner rather than later. Some people have very different ideas about that. Some folks think that we're getting very, very close. Other people say, we still got a ways to go. We don't really know. But like we talked about, you mentioned a little bit earlier, I mean, things are rapidly accelerating at this point. I mean, just look at everything that we've seen happen over the past few months. And for me, it's sort of having the effect of kind of bringing me back to a lot of the things that I used to focus on in the beginning and kind of revisiting all that stuff. One of those issues actually being time travel. Something that, because I used to delve a lot more into the esoteric topics, and wouldn't you know it? I mean, honestly, Matt, don't know if you saw this article out of the New York Post.
You mentioned it before the show, but I got to see this.
Yeah, this was just yesterday. So let me go ahead and first I want to bring up Dave's post on this. Well, actually, no, let me bring up the article first, and it's a New York Post article, so it's a pretty quick read. All right, so again, this was yesterday. Okay, New York Post. Let me go ahead and that there. Okay, so the New York Post. Is President Trump a time traveler? Century-old sketches spark new conspiracy theories. Let's go ahead and read this. Move over science fiction. The internet thinks Donald Trump might have cracked time travel. a discovered trove of 100-year-old sketches by Prussian-born artist Charles Delschau, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, could hold clues that the former president and his youngest son, Barron, could be hopping through the decades, observers suggest. This gentleman, who died in 1923, was obsessed with Eros, bizarre flying machines that looked part balloon, part airplane, part steampunk fantasy, whatever that means. Conspiracy buffs are zooming in on the word Trump scrawled across some of the drawings, and we'll show you those in just a moment. Add to that a blonde doodled person steering a craft labeled 45. And theorists' tinfoil hats are practically melting. Then there are the books. As previously reported by the Post, in the 1890s, Ingersoll Lockwood penned tales featuring a boy named Baron Trump, who lived in the lavish castle Trump and traveled through the weirdest adventures guided by a wise mentor named Don.
Master Don.
Fans of the theory say the uncanny similarities to Baron Trump are too strange to ignore. In The Last President, Lockwood imagined a chaotic New York vote and Fifth Avenue riots. Yes, really? In the author's tale, it just gets crazier and crazier. President Bryan picks Pence for his cabinet, just like Trump's former Veep Mike Pence. Now, this is one of the images that they're talking about here. Obviously, you can see the Trump right there. There's the 45. And then there's actually more details to this in a moment that Dave picked up on. I'll show everybody. Even the family's own words have become ammunition for theorists. The commander-in-chief has repeatedly said, "I know things other people don't," sparking endless debate online. But not everyone's buying into the... Okay, so here are some of the doubters here. I'll skip past that. Folks can read the article. The story gets spicier with imagined anti-gravity fuel dubbed NB gas or soup, which powered his flying machines. UFO enthusiasts are already pointing out that it sounds a lot like what the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomena. Tech Trump has promised to reveal to the public, and you'll recall he's been talking a lot about that recently, right? And of course, the internet loves to link everything to real life. And there's Baron Trump's marvelous underground journey.
And it looks like Barron in the photo.
Yep, absolutely. And then we scroll down a little bit more. I think this is the end right here. As per the New Yorker, Donald Trump's uncle, MIT professor John G. Trump, once reviewed Nikola Tesla's papers, which conspiracy theorists claim could have included secret time travel tech. Toss in a few centuries of old paintings and gargoyles that apparently resemble the former president, and voila, instant viral fodder. Whether it's actual time travel or just another case of humans connecting dots that probably shouldn't be connected. Yeah, right. As if there are coincidences. One thing's certain, the Trump family continues to inspire theories that would make even Doc Brown from Back to the Future, we've seen a lot of comms on that, raise an eyebrow. So before I go any further, man, comments so far. This is pretty crazy, right?
I mean, my personal opinion, and I know I'm saying this live on a show, I think he's a time traveler. I really do. I think what it is, I think you have to look at movies like Terminator. There's timelines. And I think what they're doing is they're fixing this timeline. Mm-hmm. I think the bad timeline would have been if Elon Musk would have been able to develop his technology. Mm-hmm. It would have been, we would have gone off the rails into some dark future of some kind. Mm-hmm. You know, almost like what's it in Terminator? What's the company?
Skynet.
Skynet.
Yeah.
You know, I think Elon Musk represents what Skynet is.
That's
and they had to go. I think they came back from the future to this time in order to change.
The dogs agree, I think.
There's people in boats over here. I think what they're doing is they're changing the timeline, and I think there's absolutely technology to do that. And exactly right, Nikola Tesla figured this stuff out.
Pretty crazy, man. And we've had so many Back to the Future comms, which of course, here's one right here from the comments. The 88s, all the 88 comms we've seen. When this baby hits 88 miles an hour.
88 miles an hour. Yeah. I think there's a very good case for it. And you know what? It's almost like when they make these movies, it's almost proof that it's real, because they want to make you out to be like this article, some conspiracy theorist. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you know what? You know, the story of think about it. They make these movies like Titanic. You know, the Titanic is not the story of Jack and Rose. Titanic is the story of the Federal Reserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling you this stuff and they romanticize it and they can do whatever they want. But I think movies like Terminator and some of these, hardcore sci-fi. I mean, look at Soylent Green. I mean, Soylent Green is a perfect example of, they're feeding us our fellow humans. It's like, yeah, that's what they've been doing in these fast food joints for decades.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of truth. Yeah, exactly. I'm with Bonnie.
Yep.
Yeah, Trump is a time traveler.
Yep.
And that'll open up. And when that's revealed, that'll open up all these technologies. Like, it'd be perfect for Trump to expose that about himself, because then he could be like, "Let me show you what I got over here and over here."
Yep.
So I'm gonna go with Trump's a time traveler.
Yeah, and then it got it got even more interesting. So Dave actually connected some dots here as well. Just kind of bring this up here. He's like, what? WTF? The New York Post has a story about Donald Trump being a time traveler and features the art, as we just went through, in Ingersoll Lockwood's books, so on and so forth. And the date on it just happens to be April 10th, 1920, or 4/10/20, which equals DJT. Just as written in Q Drop 40, as you can see, 4/10/20. And the QT, oh, wait, did I not have that up? I'm sorry. There it is. Q Drop 40. Teaching us the comms very early on, the gematria, A, B, C, D, E, and of course, 4/10/20 is DJT, who of course is Q plus. So that's pretty interesting. And let's see, was there anything else? Oh yeah, I wanted to just show folks the date here. There it is. This is the date on the painting. 4/10/20. You see it right there.
It's wild. There's something else going on, man. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something else going on.
Yep. And I had that drop up a little bit earlier where Q said to us, wait until you figure out, or wait until you hear, or you realize, I can't remember the exact wording of who you've been talking
Who you're talking to.
Yeah. Who you're talking to on here. Mind blowing, man. Absolutely mind blowing. And the fact that they're really starting to put this out more and more in, the time travel stuff, the UFOs, more and more comms about JFK Jr. We've got the Michael Jackson movie coming out. We had the Nuremberg movie come out. We have the Steven Spielberg Disclosure Day movie coming out, all in 2026 at a time when everything is just so rapidly accelerating. It's pretty exciting, man. I mean, I'm
living my best life.
I mean, when I say to people, like, it's an incredible time to be alive, sometimes, we have days where it doesn't feel that way, and people get really cynical and they're like, man, I know we're living through history and this is absolutely incredible. But, there are days when it really feels like, we're just kind of trudging along and just trying to survive throughout this process. But when you really take a step back and really think about it, it is absolutely incredible. We are living through quite literally biblical times. Q told us it was going to be biblical. And, I was actually just reminded of the Q, the lost gospel of Q. Do you know about that? Because I had heard about this a while ago.
Somebody mentioned this to me, but go ahead. You know more about it than I do.
So, okay. So this was a post. Let me see if I can pull it up here. That was actually brought to my attention. Now, this was something that I had heard about, again, a while back, but it kind of fell off my radar just because we're so inundated with information, that there is a theory that there is let's see, where is it? That there is a lost scripture, a source for scripture that was known as the Q files. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, as Q files, but this guy, let me just play this video here. He's talking about an old book that he found that was published in 1949, but there have been there have been much more recent iterations of this, as I'll show everybody in just a moment. But this guy brought it back onto my radar, and suddenly I remembered, oh my God, there's actually the Lost Gospel of Q, which that biblical scholars believe were the source for the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, I believe. So let's go ahead and let's watch this. I mean, we talk about this being biblical. My goodness. Pull it up. It's about 3 minutes.
Listen to me. Listen to me. This is pretty interesting stuff right here. Today on my way to work, I seen there was an estate sale. So I stopped, checked it out. I'm not really into estate sales or antiques or anything. But I go in and I look, and there's a bunch of old stuff. I go upstairs and there's a library. Well, you know, being somebody that's really pursuing God right now, I'm looking for stuff that is authentic, something I can really search. Whoever owned this house was a doctor. I found this book, very unique book. The book is called Man's Religions by John B. Noss. The Macmillan Company, New York City, 1949. New York, 1949. Printed in the United States of America, second printing. Being we didn't have the internet in 1949, I feel like this can be a pretty good book, right? It kind of degrades religions, all of them, even Christianity. So my truck broke down. I'm sitting there and I look over and I see the book that I bought. I paid $1 for it. By the way, it's on Amazon, 3rd edition for $902. But I get the book out and I start reading it. I go to page 571 because obviously I believe in Jesus Christ. I wanted to see what it has to say about what I believe, the religion, the one and only God. What it's got to say about him. I go to page 571, Christianity in its opening phase. And I go down to right here. It is generally assumed by historians that after his death, some of them did write down his sayings, with occasional notes of historical settings before they should be forgotten, and that thus a document or group of documents came into being, which scholars all call from the German word or source. Coming from the source, guys. The source. The source. It is generally considered that
Q. He's not
was somewhat
saying it.
colored by the prepositions of early Christians and may have had saying added to it which were mistakenly ascribed to Jesus. But on the whole, it was highly authenticated and quite naturally became primarily sourced the material for the compilers of Matthew and Luke. Who is this that was the compilers to Matthew and Luke? He's trying to wake us up, people. Wake up. Us, this is about a whole entire universe that needs to bow down before Jesus Christ and ask for forgiveness. He's trying to wake us up. It's all right here. A book.
All right. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting. And again, I had heard about this a while back, but it slipped off my radar. And I was actually reminded by one of my listeners that, yeah, I mean, this is actually, we don't have to even go back. This is Homeless Zombie Apocalypse. Wonderful screen name. I love it. But he's a listener of my show. And he says, well, yeah, we don't have to go back to a book from 1949 to find this. It's quite well known. Go ahead and pull this up. Among biblical scholars, what is called the last gospel of Q is a hypothesized ancient source for the scriptures of Matthew and Luke. So, I mean, you want to talk about going into rabbit holes, man, and living in biblical times. It's just like you start to put all these pieces together, and it really is absolutely incredible. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting because my friend Michelle, you'd love Michelle. She's like, I mean, she'll talk to you like, yeah, this is the way it is about a lot of the conspiracies. But she said that JFK Jr. is part of the Jesus bloodline.
Yeah, I've heard that discussed as well. Right, the Druze. I think the Druze bloodline, if I remember correctly,
something like that. Yeah. So I mean, it's so interesting that here we are thinking that Q started, back in the '60s with Kennedy. This could have started at the beginning of time.
Yep. Goes all the way back to ancient biblical times.
Just mind-blowing.
I mean, we always say it. We could see it manifesting in modern times, how this is a battle between good and evil. I mean, that's clear enough. And that video that I introed with, the Tom McDonald rap video, I know the audio didn't come out as great as I wanted it to, because I actually screen recorded it. But that song right now is I think it's number 1 or number 2 song across all platforms in the country right now.
Good for
Right?
him.
So tell me that people aren't waking up. So you can see how this is manifesting with all of the evil that's being unearthed. I mean, and essentially what's happening is, I mean, people, there's massive revivals. I mean, and we're not going to really get into Charlie Kirk today because we don't have enough time, but we saw that in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk event, where there were just people were flooding back to God, the huge event that they had where people were just praising Jesus. I mean, there is a spiritual divide. This is a battle between good and evil that's manifesting, of course, in modern times, but this goes all the way back to the very beginning. And there, I mean, the Q connection there to the Gospels of Matthew and Luke is just absolutely mind blowing. Now, I haven't done a deep dive into this, but I thought, I mean, because we're touching on a lot of these, these topics, I thought it would be a nice way to tie it into everything that we got.
Very cool. Very cool. I got to get a copy of that book.
Yeah, me too. You can pick it up on Amazon. Actually, there are links here. But yeah, you just look up the Lost Gospel Q, and essentially what this is. Let me actually pull this up here. This is the Amazon link that was provided. The Lost Gospel Q, the original sayings of Jesus. All right, and in the description here, the image of the historical Jesus takes form in the words of the lost. In the form of the words of the Gospel Q. The Lost Gospel Q represents the very first gospel, older than the traditional gospels and written by Jesus's contemporaries. It preserves Jesus's original words, the Sermon on the Mount, Beatitudes, the Lord's Prayer, parables, and his counsel for a compassionate life. The original of the Gospel Q was lost for 2,000 years, but for the past 170 years, that's interesting, historians and theologians have been digging through the many layers of the New Testament to uncover one of the most remarkable lost gospels of the Bible. So, oh my goodness, I didn't even have that up on the screen. I'm not really off my game here today.
I'm looking at it now. I want an original copy.
Yeah, here it is. So this is what I was just reading, folks. I apologize. I thought I had it up on the screen. But this is directly from Amazon. You can just go look it up yourself. I guess this book was published, looks like back in 2022. And it gets some pretty interesting description there. So
amazing.
Something that I definitely want to dig into as well. So amazing. But all right, so here we are. We're about we usually go about an hour and a half. So I think maybe now we can start to wind it down a little bit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure if you are enjoying, you take a moment to hit that thumbs up button. Last time, Matt, I think the last couple of times we've done shows together, we've been on the Rumble leaderboard, and that really is all up to you guys, because that actually is just the Rumble leaderboard is just however many people hit the thumbs up button. So we've got a nice
get us up there.
Here.
We want to be number one.
Yeah, we got a nice audience here, man. I mean, we've got about 800 people on Rumble at the moment. And for a Saturday afternoon, that's not too shabby. And we've also got another couple of hundred people watching on X. So we got an audience of about 1,000 live listeners, which we genuinely appreciate and love. So if all you guys could just take a moment to hit that thumbs up button, we'd really appreciate it. And also, let us know in the comments of what you think of the show. I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback here. We love you guys. So once again, let's kind of wind this down with me pulling up the German word Q stands for the German word quell or source.
Yeah.
The ultimate source. Good. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. So let me bring up the website here, as I always do at the end of the show, and just have Matt close out with some final thoughts and talk a little bit about how you can get in touch with them. And once again, just reminding everybody about the amazing, best top of the line, top shelf company out there for precious metals that he created, Verity. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. And, thanks everybody that's, put the confidence in us. That's what I'm grateful for. The friendships, the business is obviously great. Just give me a call. You obviously have my cell phone here. You can call the main number. I'm sorry if some of the people weren't able to get through. We will absolutely make sure to get to you. Email me. You can do it. It's my first name, Matthew, with 2 T's. Matthew@veritymetals.com. There is a feature where you can schedule a Zoom call. So if you want to do something like what we're doing here, where we have something face to face on Zoom, we can absolutely do that. But I think great things are ahead. It's going to be a bumpy road, as we discussed on the show. Everybody hang in there, you know. I think everything's going to be a-okay. We got, I think we got the right people in place, and you know, pray to God that it's gonna go as smoothly as possible. But it's an amazing time to be alive, and I feel grateful to be you know, a part of it with all of you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. So give Matt a call, folks, whether you're, you know, whether you're up to your eyeballs in silver stacking, or whether you're just kind of getting your feet wet, whether, or maybe you haven't bought any medals at all. This is the guy you want to talk to. He's built his entire business around integrity and wanting to take care of the Patriot community. And you know, it's funny. This is the way God works. I mean, Matt's he does right by people, and that's really that's kind of like God's design. You do right by people, you get the good karma, and people come back for more.
100%.
And so they spread the word to everybody else out there. And so Matt's business and his reputation is growing more and more with every passing day. And I really do enjoy these conversations because, you know, we talk about metals. We started off getting into sort of a deep dive on what's going on with the markets and where everything is headed. But then we pivot into all these different interesting topics.
The fun stuff.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So thank you everybody out there for listening.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to be back with you guys on Monday with the great Mike King. And let's see, what else do I got coming up? I may have a show scheduled for next Thursday. I'm not going to announce it yet because I still have to confirm. But you know, my usual Monday shows with Mike are still on. On the 26th, I'm going to be back on News Treason with Dave, and I believe Mark is actually going to be joining us for that show. We've really missed Mark being a part of that dynamic. I've been trying to. I mean, he and I talk pretty frequently behind the scenes, and you know, he's taken a step back. He's slowed down a little bit, but he still wants to periodically do shows. So I'm really looking forward to that.
He's getting old. No.
Well, you know, I mean, you said it, not me. No, he'd be the first to admit it. I mean, he tells me all the time. He's like, dude, I'm retired. I'm supposed to be just like relaxing, enjoying myself right at this point. But Mark is doing great work. And by the way, I also should mention, since I brought him up, his incredible music video that he put together, Who Saves the Children, which is I featured it not last week, I don't think, but the week before on my show with Mike King. And it's also on my social media pages where you can email Mark. You can get a free download of the music video and for $5, and that $5 goes towards supporting various different charities. Amongst them is ARC, which is a great one. I actually made a donation myself to ARC. I know you did as well. I think live on air.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Matt donated, was it $5,000 live on air?
$5,000, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to talk about a guy of integrity? He puts his, you know.
Oh, that's the tip of the iceberg, man. We do a lot. We do a lot of, you know, great charities. We work with some churches. You know, we work with Pastor Dave up in Sacramento. You know, anybody from his church, you know, we give the commission right back to the church. So, you know, whatever we can do, man. Patriots got to help Patriots, and this is the time to do it.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely want to support Mark. And then towards the end of of course the children, which is what really brought us all to the table here to begin with. I mean, certainly that's what it's all about, is protecting innocence. Ultimately, that's the one uniting factor that above and beyond anything else that's going to bring this country and this world together and dissolve all of our differences. And then finally, at the end of the month, on the 28th, I'm going to be sitting down for my monthly show with my good friend Maestro, where we do kind of a month in review. And my goodness, is there a lot of stuff to cover. We had a great time talking about February and the way that March is shaping up. I can only imagine over the next, we're only halfway through. We have no idea what the next scenes in the movie are going to be, what the next shoes to drop are. But one thing is for sure, the screenwriters, these creative geniuses at 4POG, White Hat Productions, as we call it, they're keeping us at the edge of our seat with our popcorn. That is for sure. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that, everybody. I hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. I got to step away now and continue with my very busy day. We're going to be going out and doing some family stuff. I know Matt's, I'm sure, got some stuff going on as well. So we'll leave it there. But thank you, everybody. Once again, please hit that thumbs up on your way out. Make a comment. Call this man on the screen. Get yourself squared away, and you will be very happy that you did. So God bless. Godspeed, everybody. Until the next time, Patriot out.